Ready to go?
Oh.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to America House. My name is Michael Hackett. I'm the Assistant Cultural Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy. I oversee our educational exchange programs, our academic grants, and our speaker program. I'm delighted to manage the speaker program where we bring out voices, some of the best and brightest members of American society to present the great diversity of American culture, thought, history, and policy, as well as economy. I think you may be aware next week is Global Entrepreneurship Week. So we were hoping to find the best possible speaker we could to come and talk about developing small businesses and promoting entrepreneurship here in Ukraine. And I'm delighted to say that we have found exactly the right speaker with Tara Palacios, who is the director of BizLaunch. This is a small business and entrepreneurship assistance network from Arlington, Virginia, which is a sister city to Lviv. She is here throughout this week to meet with startups, to meet with young entrepreneurs, students, to be able to talk about how to go about opening a business and developing a business. We're delighted to have her here. Her organization, BizLaunch, was launched in 2002. It's already helped over 50,000 small businesses, which is huge. And she herself has a long background in the private sector, working in a variety of different enterprises, so draws from both her experience in the private sector and in the government. So without further ado, please join me in giving a warm America House welcome to Tara Palacios.
Thank you. Oh, Michael, thank you so much. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hi. Are you all ready to go for a ride? Welcome, Tara Palacios. I have the honor and pleasure of working with several entrepreneurs and startup businesses in Arlington, Virginia. And I get very inspired by entrepreneurs, by people with ideas. And the inspiration happens because being able to see people do what they love and then make it into a business and to be successful and to help their family and to help their community is priceless. And I can say it can be done. And it's a great way. Should I wait? Oh, no, I will continue on. As long as you're strategic. And what I'm going to do is share with you all tonight some tips and some things that I've learned over the years of working with other entrepreneurs. And so what I want, my goal for this session for you all, is to leave out with an aha moment so that it can help you as you go on your journey of becoming an entrepreneur. Is everybody with me? Yes. No, I'm good. I think my feet have survived. I've been in these shoes all day. So we did the introductions, but we're gonna go into some detail on the business preparation, the things that you need to do in order to be successful that we've seen and that we've encountered. We're gonna talk about different financing options that are available to businesses, look at regulatory requirements and should you understand and know them, as well as any kind of certifications that the business can get in order to help you compete with other larger or mid-sized companies. I think Michael already did a great job talking about me in the private sector. One thing I want you guys to be aware of is that BizLaunch is a local government program that's sponsored by the local government. And the thought was in economic development, we work to attract businesses from multi-platforms. So small businesses, medium businesses, large-sized businesses in a variety of different areas. Some of the larger-sized companies and the medium-sized companies have access to resources and tools to get started. Small businesses need help. They need to understand as they're developing and as they're beginning and they're growing their business, they need to understand they may be a subject matter expert in one area, but they don't know how to run the ins and outs in the day-to-day of doing a business. And so that's why I founded BizLaunch in 2002. It really was to provide a platform to people to be successful from the get-go. And even if a business decided not to start, we still say that it's a success because they haven't lost any of their money on something that wasn't feasible or was something that didn't make sense, right? Because we don't want someone to take their life savings and to have it just kind of disappear, right? It's really, really important that if you're investing in yourself, in your idea, in your business, that it is a success. Now, more about me, I like to read and I like to have a lot of fun. And so as we go through, if you all have questions or if something doesn't make sense, feel free to ask. But we'll also have Q&A at the end as well. A lot of people don't know this, but Arlington was actually part of the District of Columbia. We were part of Washington, D.C., when the Founding Fathers originally plotted out the Capitol. And what happened about 100 or so years ago was that D.C. said, okay, south of the Potomac, that's all swampland, it's pawn shops, it's not attractive, we'll just give that back to Virginia. And so that's what they did. And then became the portion that you see that's in the black outline, that's Arlington. Just south of there is the city of Alexandria, who are very good friends of ours now, but it's two separate areas. And so I do a lot of work. Most of my work is in Arlington, but something unusual that we do is that I don't care if you're not from Arlington. I will help. I will work with you. I find that if somebody has reached out and they're asking questions and they want to know information, I'm going to help them. I may at some point say, well, if you're based in such and such a place, you need to talk to this person so that you understand the regulations. But on the business development piece, we work with a lot of businesses from all over. We're about 5 minutes from DC. There's about 11 metro stations. Transportation is really, really important for us. The ease and access of being able to get, because we are a tri-state area, there's Virginia, Maryland, and the district. A lot of people are coming from the suburbs that actually work in the more urban areas of Arlington and DC. We're only 26 square miles. We're very, very small, but it's very, very dense. There's a lot of business activity that goes on in that 26 square miles. Our population is 226,000 people currently, and in 2040, it's going to grow to right under 300,000. I think our schools, it's very interesting, they're bursting at the seams, so we need to build more schools. People really enjoy the educational system. One fact about Arlington, it's a very diverse community, and there are 146 countries represented by the children, and they speak 107 different languages in our public schools. So it's a very diverse community with people landing. Yesterday I was saying we have the largest population of Mongolians outside of Mongolia. Who knew? But it's a fact about Arlington. About 419 million square feet of it is commercial space. So there's a lot of businesses, a lot of business that happens and occurs. What's interesting, we look at people that employ 24 or less is our definition of small business. And looking at the variety of industries that are in Arlington, there's about 8,400 that comprise the small businesses. So there are a lot of small businesses, and the impact on our budget is significant because most of the taxes that we receive come from business. And so it's imperative for us to make sure that our businesses are healthy because the majority of the funds goes back to schools and into that very diverse system, and it goes back to helping our folks that are most at need. So I am motivated to make sure our businesses are successful because our businesses help our most at-risk population. And it's a very inspiring thing to do. And as Michael said, we've hit over 50,000 businesses since I founded it in 2002. We see people from everywhere. We either have workshops, conferences, networking events, all kinds of activity so that we are developing an entrepreneurial ecosystem. One of the things I do recommend that you all do is please network with each other. It's so funny, the people that actually take this course that I teach in the States, they come out and they collaborate and they do things together. Never had met each other before. I told the story earlier today that we had a chocolatier and a coffee maker. They met each other, just happened to be sitting next to one another. And I went out to another area within Virginia, and I found that they had produced a chocolate coffee bar together. And I had no clue. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, they were just sitting in a class together. And they've collaborated and they've come up with this. And so I think it's imperative to know right from the beginning and make sure that you plan and that you're going out there and that you're meeting and you're talking with other people about what it is that you want to do. One of the things that I love about entrepreneurship and building a business is that you know a good one. Like, I would buy lemonade from this stand. It's very attractive. It's got the lemons. It's a very simple message. It has children. Children can sell anything. If you put children and animals and pets in advertising, you will sell. Remember that. Yes, exactly. And so what they've done, though, is they've branded, their company name, Lemonade. They've got the lemons. You see what it is. It's nothing that anyone has to guess. Sometimes I'll have entrepreneurs come and they'll say, oh, I'm calling my business X, and it has nothing to do with what they were doing as Y. And so it's like the name and the brand and the information and the marketing should be consistent over time. And it should be, when someone hears the name of your company, it should imbue what you're doing. It should be simple. The simpler the message, the easier it is to convert into a sale. The more complex an idea or a business is, the more you have to educate and you have to allow people to know exactly what it is that you're doing. And that costs money. And one of the things I actually was saying at our class earlier is you want to go with the low-hanging fruit. And I'm going to talk about that a lot in this talk. Your low-hanging fruit are the things that you can easily get that don't cost you a lot of money, and it's very easy to execute, and you make money off of it. Okay? I can't recommend that. Don't throw money at anything that's a bad idea. Don't throw money at anything that doesn't make sense. Money does not solve the issue. Planning and the proper execution will help you. Also, entrepreneurship may feel very lonely because you have this idea in your mind and you're working it through, but you are not alone. There are resources, there are programs, there are things that you can tap to online. There's a lot of information. The one thing I would say is you want to discern from the really good quality resources versus the folks that are just doing it just to do it. You want to make sure that who you align yourself with are going to help you to grow your business. It's extremely, extremely important. And so what I've done from a local government municipality standpoint is to bring together partners that will help and benefit businesses. And a lot of these agencies, you can access the information. The information is transferable. For instance, the U.S. Small Business Administration, aka the SBA, because we love acronyms in government. The SBA has tutorials that you can utilize that will help you with business plans, that are industry specific, that have information about how to be successful. And you can download and find all of this information for free. We work very closely with our public library, and I'll get into more detail, But the librarians themselves are master researchers for Fortune 500 companies that want to help entrepreneurs. So we literally have business librarians that will sit down with you to help you find business intelligence and much needed information to help your business grow. And I actually have a lot of webinars that are available that you can download and use, which will walk you through the types of information that you'll need for your planning purposes. Aligned with universities, aligned with NGOs, aligned with our other government agencies, from building inspectors to zoning and permits, because we're only as good as the people that we surround ourselves with. And that's extremely important in the entrepreneurship sphere. You don't want to be aligned with people that drag you down, only the ones that lift you up. So you've got this great idea. It's been percolating, and you're now ready to execute. What next? What should I do? Who wants to tell me? Any thoughts? Yes.
Find funding.
Funding, that's a very good one. Is that the first thing?
No, business plan.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Business plan. And
Good team.
Exactly. Yes, you need good people to be on your team. What I tell everybody to do is to brainstorm. I wouldn't try to do too many ideas. Stick with one. Brainstorm it through. Figure out, is it feasible? Does it make sense? What would it take to launch? Is it the low-hanging fruit? You know, how easy or hard will it be to execute? And run the idea by others. I think some people are concerned that their intellectual property will get stolen or taken away. But if you align yourself with good partners and you protect your intellectual property, it's best to kind of run your idea by other people to ensure that what you're doing makes sense. They can also help you to improve what you're doing because they're able to find weaknesses. Because you're so close to the idea, they'll be able to find weaknesses in your plan that you hadn't thought of. Because at some point, you become so close to what it is and you have such passion around what you're doing that you lose somewhat objectivity. You also want to know very clearly what your weaknesses are. Embrace your weakness. Embrace it. Love it. Understand it. And then you can take classes to minimize the risk, or you can have partners and people that have expertise in that particular area to help mitigate what it is you're planning to do. So this is like my favorite slide because I get the question all the time, I need a checklist. What do I do first? How do I do it? In what order? Some of the things that you're going to be doing simultaneously. While you're seeking your financials, you're going to be planning because you want to know the amount that you need in order to do what you want to do. You also want to know information about your target market, but you need to know, furthermore, where the opportunities are. And so the very first step that I tell everyone, and it's I say there are good four-letter words, and a good four-letter word is plan. Okay? Plan, and plan some more. With the thought that you're going to take a calculated leap to start or to initiate versus just a leap of faith, right? When you plan, you minimize the risk of the endeavor that you're doing, and it's priceless. You decide at that time also whether or not you're going to finance, how much cash you're going to need to bring to launch your endeavor, and where you're going to get that money from. That is part of your checklist. You're going to want to know what type of business formation or structure that you will be, because that many times has tax implications. And I always tell folks to get 10 steps ahead of the tax man, because you don't want to say that you were unaware that you owed a tax, because usually it's 10 times what you owed if you're late or if you've anticipated what it should be. know whatever type of regulatory requirements there are. For us, it's on the federal, state, as well as local level requirements that sometimes people will skip. There's certifications that you can receive. I know Virginia gives small certifications, women's certifications, minority business certifications, and then don't forget to execute. I have some people that have been planning for 5 years. Please don't let that be you. At some point, you've got the plan down. It's time to execute, right? And so what I recommend everyone to do really is to have a calendar that they use. I actually will go. One thing I will say before I jump to the next slide is this checklist can be found with hyperlinks at this bit.ly that I have down below. You can access it. The cool thing about our website is that it does translate into Ukraine. Yay! So you'll be able to receive the checklist and kind of make your own. It doesn't have to follow step by step by step, but these are the major chunks that I've actually put together for the companies that have been successful throughout the time. And so definitely feel free to use the checklist. So once you've got your great idea, you think everyone wants to buy your product or your service, so you put that idea onto paper. Don't just talk about it. You need to take action and do something about it, okay? That makes it real when you write things down or when you talk about it. And the more you talk about it, the easier it comes off the tongue and the more sense it makes. So if I'm talking about I'm starting a particular business, and I'm talking to you about it, and you're looking at me like, what? What are you doing? I know I'm not conveying the message, and so I have to tweak it. I have to constantly be doing things that make it very simple, that help me to stand out. And so to do that, you have to really plan and put it together and then practice it. What I tell people to do is to take a calendar. The reality is in the States, to do a business well that has brick and mortar, that has a physical space that you're responsible for, will take 3 years if you do it right, because you want to get the perfect space. It's a lot of competition from other people, especially for retail in the DC metro area. And so you want to make sure that you get the space where people are walking by and they see you. Because if you're around the corner, over the way down the street, you're going to have to throw a lot of money at advertising and letting people know that you're there, right? And so if you pay premium dollar, you hire a broker, the broker will help you identify the space. That's about a 3-year minimum, including writing the business plan. Sometimes negotiations for space in the States can go back and forth. I have business owners that will sign as soon as they receive a letter of intent to rent a space. And I say, wait, put your hands, sit on your hands, don't sign. Make sure that you negotiate. Everything in business can be negotiated to terms that are favorable to you. So make sure that you don't just get happy with an opportunity or happy to spend $5,000 a month. Oh, yeah. You want to make sure that if the HVAC system or if the plumbing goes out, that you're not responsible for that the owner of the property is, okay? So you develop your action plan with clear milestones. I want to launch in 2020, April of 2020. What are the things that I need to do backwards in order for me to accomplish the goal forward? Sometimes I'll ask people, where do you see your business in 10 years? Have you sold it? Are you living on an island from the proceeds? Are you franchising? Like, what are you doing with the company? And then if you see the big picture and then you work backwards, that helps you to achieve your goal. And visualization is half of life. If you can see yourself living and doing and being strategic about it, it will get done. You know, you can live your dream of having your own business. Educate yourself, be realistic on the things, on your strengths and weaknesses, which I talked about. Very, very important, and something that I see a lot of very successful entrepreneurs doing is having a mentor. Someone that's successful in the space that you're looking to go into, that is an influencer, you reach out to them. You say, hey, I'm Tara, and I want to start this business. I'd love to take you out for coffee to pick your brain. I won't take all of your time, but would you be willing to meet with me at least 4 times as I'm starting this business? What's the worst thing that could happen? They say no. So then you go on to the next person until they say yes. It takes people about 6 times before they understand what it is that you're doing. So even though there's not a yes initially, if you keep doing it, somebody's bound to say yes. And if you cultivate that mentor and you've identified who they are, you find out everything about them, what makes them tick. And so when you talk with them, you know how to engage them and be very strategic. Mentorship is priceless. It can really help you in so many ways. You can also identify advisors and other people that you can speak to help you with your initiative. So planning is fundamental. We all know this. We're all going to start this first. Yes? No? Who's going to plan? Yes! Everybody's hand should be up. Please plan. Market research, business intelligence are things that you need to do. You need to understand the industry that you're in. If you're not a subject matter expert in that industry, what I tell everybody to do is go work for someone, be an employee in the field, see how well they're doing, see how well they're not doing, and then from there you've got practical applications so that you can do your own business. And you haven't lost any money working for somebody else, but you've got business intelligence which should help you take your business to the next level. And that's priceless. And you're making money that can go into the business itself to help you with funding. I tell people, do not quit your job. Do not quit until you've done some of these pieces and you understand what you're doing. I love marketing. Marketing is so important because it's your differentiator. It's how you present yourself. Instead of just saying, I'm an IT company and I work in cybersecurity and, No, you say things that are fascinating. When you pitch you. You pitch your story. People love stories. Storytelling will never go away. And if you have a great pitch, it doesn't have to be long. You don't want people falling asleep. You want it so that it's dynamic and it's your story and you're sharing it with others. And that's contagious. That's infectious. People love that. And the same is true. So social media is a form of marketing. And so you use and be strategic on social media. Be where your target market is. Don't be on Instagram if it's not a visual, if what you're doing is not visual. That doesn't make sense. You also want to time when you post and when you share information. We found that most people will click our articles on Saturday. Most entrepreneurs will click on articles at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. And that's when we send out our posts. Because everybody, Monday through Friday, run around. Crazy. You got all kinds of stuff, been picking up kids and doing all kinds of stuff. You're busy, right? You're running your business. So when do you exhale? When do you catch your breath? Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock. That is when BizLaunch sends out information. Because our click rates are much higher. You need to know this granular type of information so that you are sharing and doing things just not because it looks cool, but because as a business it makes sense to have these practicalities, these things in place. Now that doesn't mean that some of these social media tools will always be around. You have to always be analyzing and making sure that that is the platform that your business is on. Sales, you need to make sure that you have sales and goals that you're trying to attain by the day, by the week, by the month, and then that's your year one. And so if you aren't making your sales goals, you want to look at your business development, you want to look and see what you're doing and tweak. And make sure that it always makes sense constantly. Because anything could happen to interrupt the flow of your day-to-day operations. For a new business, the financials of the business are intertwined with the individual. And what you'll want to do over time is to separate the individual. Tara needs to separate for her company so that the company can then stand on its own and have its own ability to have its own means of being able to purchase and buy and do business with other businesses. And that's the goal that you want to attain to. The elements of the business plan itself, first of all, it must be feasible. It has to make sense. There has to be a market. There has to be competition. Okay? Competition is important. When business owners come to me and they're like, well, Tara, I'm doing this idea. Nobody else is doing it. I'm like, why not? If nobody else is doing it, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You're going to have to throw a lot in R&D, research and development. You're going to have to make sure that it makes sense. And this is not low-hanging fruit, right? You want it to be low-hanging fruit. You want it to be as detailed as it needs to be. You want to make sure that it's a healthy, growing industry and that it's not a niche-type market. It's funny because in BizLaunch, we see different business trends. One year, everybody I know wanted to start a coffee shop. It's crazy. There's only so much caffeine that can be consumed. There's been cupcake phenomenon. We're now going through a healthy lifestyle craze, and Arlington is number one for health industry. And so now I'm just working with people, and they're like boxing clubs where they've actually built a boxing stage, and you go up and I've learned everything about how to start a boxing business, and I don't like boxing. But it's like you have to reinforce, because it's so heavy, you have to reinforce it like 10 times because of the weight. And so there's permitting and but I know all this stuff because the businesses really understand the need of the community, and people are really very much into health right now and working out and eating and diet. Your competition also has to be healthy. It's easier to grab some of the market share than it is to create it. The plan itself should be about 20 pages. It could be longer depending on the complexity of what it is that you're doing. It could be, we worked with one business owner who was a PhD. His business plan was almost 75 pages, but it made sense. And we worked with him. We helped him through the planning phase. Didn't see him again until last year when he sold his company for $40 million. Yeah, and he said, doing this process and making sure that I did it kept me focused and made sure that he was denied a few times with like funding and with other things, but he kept focused and he made sure that he went through the process of doing the plan. He worked with a mentor, and that's what he cites for helping him to 4 years later and selling the business for that amount. Pretty amazing. So what you're doing with the plan is you're taking an assumption about the market and you're minimizing the risk. It's written for yourself. You have to have management expertise and the financials and the marketing plan itself. I always say that for marketing, you know what it is. It's not nebulous. An apple is an apple. It looks fresh and juicy. It's got water on it. It's flavorful. But there's something about that apple in the middle. I don't know what it is, but I really like that apple in the middle. That's what your marketing should be. It should be positioning that you've taken that helps you to stand out from everybody else. It's got the same formation, it's got the same stem, the color is different, and it just looks the way the light is hitting it. This is what good marketing will do. And remember I was saying you have to have at least 6 touches before someone remembers you. So, and it has to look the same and has to have the same message all of those times. We use social media. We do a lot on, we just really started doing LinkedIn. I think there's a lot of business-to-business transactions done on LinkedIn. I think it's a great tool, especially if you're looking to hire people. You have folks' resumes, it's easy to communicate, it's easy to get information about other B2B things. A lot of folks will use, the biggest thing about social media is creating a call to action. What you want to do in the social media space is get people to go to your website. And you want them to either attend a class or buy a product or analyze a widget. There's something that you want them to do. And so you need to have that as a market, as a toolkit. I know most local governments, state governments, federal agencies, different countries, everybody's on social media. Opportunities are conveyed on social media. We post up information about grants, about incentive programs for businesses. A lot of times you'll hear from government entities that say, well, we can't find entrepreneurs. And the entrepreneurs say, well, we're here. Why can't you find us? You know? And so using these different platforms so that you're able to get competitive information and data, and by being strategic as to who you follow as well, is really important. That doesn't mean that traditional advertising is going to go away. We actually advertise in a local blog that everybody reads. It's a gossip blog, and there are lots of crazy comments. But the statistics on who opens the blog, they can find the majority of people that read this blog are in the Department of Defense, are at the Pentagon, or in the federal government in some kind of way. And there are people that live in the Arlington community who are budding entrepreneurs. So I advertise. I pay advertising. I pay probably, I think, and I split the advertising within my department. So I'm not paying, I think it costs us about $14,000 a year, but we split it within 3 different agencies to make it affordable an article. And I'm able to outreach to people. And it's helped me to get resources. It's helped me because it is so specific to the community itself. That's what you want to do for traditional advertising. You don't want to be in a magazine that nobody's reading. That's your target market. You want to be where people are. So if you can identify, and it might be a non-traditional type magazine, but it's where your target market is, that's where you put money. And then what you do, not only do you put the money in there, but you do your return on investment. You code it to see how many people clicked on that article and how many people did a call to action to buy or to check you out or to seek an appointment. Because all of these things are great. And if you can track it and it makes sense, then I recommend continuing to do that. You should also be doing surveys. Whether it's a street survey, whether it's something like a Survey Monkey, this kind of information helps you when you reach out to your target market and you say, what do you like about my product? What do you not like about my product? Don't get mad if they tell you the reason they don't like it. Use that as your business intelligence and use it to make tweaks and changes that strengthens what you're doing in the business. I can't begin to emphasize, a lot of people don't reach out to find out from their customers why they like them beyond. There was one business in Maryland, in Montgomery County, who did natural teas. And he literally would go to the metro stations and have people try his tea to see if they liked it. He actually, and this probably isn't legal, but he started in his basement. But the cool factor was he wanted to do natural teas that people enjoyed drinking. And he ended up selling to Coca-Cola. But it was he believed very strongly in making sure that you go out, that you test your market, that you talk to them, and that you embrace the feedback, tweak, and then execute. One of the things, there's this little website down below that I have, namecheck.com. That website, you can check all of the social media platforms to see if they're available. And I tell everybody to use that before you settle on your name, because you can find out within a click whether or not you can get LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram for your business. And it's good to do that. You may also consider trademarking your name, whether it's an international trademark or a domestic trademark. It's also important if your name is important to you. So some of the things I say, do not sweat the small stuff. I went through, it's a lot of information, especially with planning and making sure that you get things right. But there are resources available to you that are another good 4-letter word. We've got plan, and now let's add free. A lot of information that's out on the web is available to you for free, and it should make you do the happy dance. Yay! We worked really closely with our library. Also, what we've done as a county, we compile our own research data and statistics. If there's an economic development group or a chamber of commerce, I highly recommend. They have all kinds of information about business, on statistics, on foot traffic, on the cost of doing business, on pricing. The pricing piece is very important. I didn't mention this earlier today, but you want to get the pricing correct when you go out. Because people are like elephants. They remember everything. So if you have this amazing price of like $5 for something, if one day you decide to change it to $10, they will not forgive you. And they will remember, and they will tell their friends, and they'll get on Yelp, and they'll be like, "Rah!" So just make sure that the pricing that you start off with, that you have it consistently, and that you make money. Whatever price you're thinking, add 20%. As a small business, most businesses don't evaluate themselves as being worth it. Well, I'm doing this, and I want people to buy it, so you make it really cheap, right? Don't do it. Don't go with that base instinct. Charge the value of what you're worth, your time, how much it costs you, because you don't want to lose money on your endeavor. This is really, really important. I've seen people do that. You don't necessarily have to discount things as well. I had one business owner that was running a restaurant, and he was doing very well the first 2 years. He was grossing about $2 million a year. And how he was getting his target market was by giving them $15 birthday coupons. And I'm like, don't give people $15. They're going to come to you. If you have a good product, people will come no matter what the cost is, right? So he started failing and not doing well and was insisting on doing these $15 coupons for a birthday. No matter what I could tell him, I'm like, don't do it. Don't cheapen your brand. People won't. They'll only come when it's your birthday. And that's not the audience that you want to target. You want to target people that are willing to pay what it's worth for your business. And there are also networking opportunities. I highly encourage, we do a lot of fun networking events. We do brunch and business, minus the alcohol. We do networking events where we're bringing businesses together to kind of collaborate and talk and to communicate and to do different things together. This is priceless. I really encourage if there's a group or an organization that you can target, because it can be very, very helpful to the business owner and a great way to get out and to meet other people. I talked about the library. I'm going to be sending out this presentation. Everyone will get a copy of this. We have webinars on our website, which are free, that you can download and review about a lot of the things that I was talking about. We also have NGOs that specialize in working with businesses, and so I highly encourage you to do the mentorship or the advising. SCORE mentors that are aligned with the Small Business Administration, they also have a large clearinghouse of webinars on a variety of different topics. So say financing isn't your shtick, they will actually tell you how to figure out your projections. They will help you figure out your balance sheet, and it's a tutorial so you can go at your own pace. And I highly recommend going to score.org and checking out their webinars. Also, just a note of caution, I have the evil witch from The Wizard of Oz saying, think it through before you go global. Many reasons. You want to be very successful domestically before you decide to take it on the road to another country. Because all the things that I was talking about that you need to do as you launch, you have to consider it tenfold with doing a global business. You'll have to really understand the rules, the regulations, the information for that other country. You really should have somebody on the ground, whether it's a marketing and sales group. Very, very important to have somebody in business development as well. And rule of thumb, at least in the United States, is you need to have assets of 6 million or more, because you want to be successful in your country, and then you take it out to everyone else. And you want to make sure that you get employees and talent that are based in the country, because they will help you to navigate a lot of the policies, a lot of the regulations. And doing business in different countries is very different. Some are transparent and others are not. Whether or not the market is there diversification of the types of businesses that are there? How accessible are talent that are in different countries? And what competitive advantages do you bring to the mix outside of companies that are already there? And understanding where there is foreign investment opportunities within those said countries to kind of help you start. Many countries do have programs because they're looking for foreign dollars to come in, because it helps to diversify their own financial health. And so I think that's also an interesting perspective. And so the real strategy for this is standardizing of the products that you're offering at home and internationally, overseas. Having flexibility if something works a bit different, if your target market purchases or buys, or the advertising or the social media is different, to change. Understand the language and cultural differences. I think some of the larger U.S. companies, it's really paramount when they went global. Some things don't translate the same, and so there's always funny case studies of words that don't translate, and people think it's fine, and they're wondering why they're not doing well. Market considerations: how is that country's, how are they doing from a financial standpoint? Dedication and commitment. Anytime you're doing business, you have to be dedicated and you have to be committed. I always tell people, you have to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning and happy doing your invoices. This is my business. I'm doing it. I am happy. I would have people that would just complain, and they always had problems in business. You've got to love it. You have to have passion. These are some business websites that I've kind of cultivated. Of course, I'm biased because mine is on the top. But I've given you the SBA. We have a business portal that we share. The Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, which is our federal tax arm, has so many great tutorials on business formation and founding. I would definitely recommend. Even something to consider that I didn't put on the slides is making sure that you have your own cybersecurity in place so that people can't hack your system or your website or be able to take it over. It's I think in 2019, it's a really important thing to have and to make sure you're aware of. So my next question, do we finance? Do we get money? Yes. Show me the money. Yes. And we're going to talk about the financing. One of the recommendations that I always tell to business owners is, with banks, especially if you're working with other institutions, is to get the money before you need it. Because they can always smell desperation. They always know when you need it, and they're kind of like, oh, I don't think so. But if you come in and you say, hey, I've got this great new product, check it out, see what it looks like, right? And then you go away. You didn't ask for anything. They're expecting you to ask, and you don't. And you keep coming back, I'm growing. I'm hiring 2 or 3 more people. How you doing? My business is great. Go away, come back, a month later, same thing. Positive message, communication, know them by their first name. And the likelihood, because human beings are about relationship. We're about talking to one another. There's social media, but social media is supposed to be social. But we really love stories, and we really love saying, banks love to be able to say, well, the SBA always likes to say, we gave Nike their very first loan. They love saying that. And the loan came from a bank, and it was co-signed by the SBA. And look at Nike now. So they want to be attached to success stories. And if you don't go straight out asking for money, it's probably the best way to do it. Some of the different types of financing options, you've got the traditional financing with the bank. The SBA is for startup, for new businesses. And so that's actually in the US, it's having the federal government act as your co-signer so that you minimize the risk. It still comes from a bank, but you're partnered up with the federal government because they want to stimulate business growth. And so this is an opportunity for startups to get money. Family and friends is, I call that the bootstrap method. A lot of people do that. That's the more realistic. I should have added on here credit cards as well. And then there's crowdfunding, and then there's VC money. Banks are going to look, I know this is an ugly slide, but I wanted to put it all in here. Anytime anyone is doing or seeking, or you're seeking to get money, we call it the 5 C's of credit. It's capital, collateral, capacity, capital, collateral, conditions, and character. The banker is talking to you, and the whole time he or she is trying to figure out whether or not they're going to fund you. So they want to know the very first one, capacity. Do you have the ability to repay? Even if the business fails, you have to have that ability. If you don't, it's tenuous. Yes, then they will collateralize and get guarantees with your real estate, with any property, any boats, any stocks, anything you own. In case you fail, they have this asset that they can then turn to get the money back. However, most banks don't want your house. They really don't want your house. They want you to succeed. So then they look at capital. Are you investing in the endeavor yourself? How much money are you going to put towards what you're asking for? The banker will say, well, Tara, you're not putting any money in, so why should we? And they don't. And usually the rule of thumb for that is they want between 10% to 40% in liquidity for the business owner. And if you don't have that money, the likelihood of getting the loan is minimal. Conditions, certain banks, they won't tell you this in the States, but they want to know what you're going to use the funds for. Is it for marketing? Is it for a restaurant? Is it for a tech company? There's certain industries that banks like because their underwriters are familiar with the industry and the owners of the banks have a lot of affinity for a particular industry that they want to know what the intended use is. Restaurants and retailers, it's really hard to get financing because it's so, in order to start a restaurant in the U.S. and to have a significant location, it'll cost you about $1 million. And so if you don't have that and the bank is looking to loan and you fail and they can't get that money back, so it makes it a more riskier endeavor. What's happened in the States for restaurants is they've started consortiums of chefs, typically. Really famous people all come together to minimize the risk and to invest money in to open up a location. It's really helpful. I think one of the most famous chefs that's from the DC area is Jose Andres. Are you guys familiar with him? He steps in to help when there's been a disaster, like in Puerto Rico. He'll go in and he'll make food for people, but he has an organization called the Think Food Group. It was a consortium of people, like-minded restaurateurs, that open up different types of restaurants very successfully. And a lot of that's done through their own investment versus going to a traditional bank. The last one is character. This is the impression that you make with the lender. Anytime you talk about your business, you want to be very factual, and you want to be able to talk to it at point. And one of the things is, like, if you say you go to the banker Hello, Mr. Banker. Hello, Ms. Banker. I would love to get $10,000, but if you have 50, I'll take that. Hey. They're going to look at you and they're going to be like, wait, what? Hold on. Who is this person? So you want to come in strong. You want to have your numbers. You want to show that you're growing. You want to have established a relationship and make it so that it is yes and not no. We had a very popular pizza cart called Pupatella. It was a husband and wife team. They met in culinary school, and they had a cart that they built an Italian brick oven inside the cart, and they promised that they would get you your pizza that was personally made in 7 minutes or less. So I would look up and people be queued down the street, I'm like, whoa. And they added like these little what do you call them? Like little breakfast balls with like cinnamon and sugar, like donuts. And they diversified and they came to me and they're like, well, we really want to have a brick and mortar restaurant. We're tired of being in this cart. It's cold, 365 days of the year. And so I said, okay, don't jump yet. I said, woo your banker, make a relationship, give them free pizza. You have an excellent product. There's a buzz, they're on social media, they do Instagram. That business has gone on it's about to open its second location because the bank invested in them. And they have, across the country, they're starting to franchise the business, Pupatella. And they are also doing frozen pizzas that are available in all the supermarkets. And so if you're deliberate about what it is that you're doing and you're patient and you have time, it can be done. Anything is possible. A majority of our entrepreneurs, family, friends, and credit cards, they do that bootstrap method to help them get started. The traditional lending, of course, collateral, it's short term, a lot of times with new startups. The interest rates sometimes can be higher. You can work, one of the trends that's happening now is that there are local community banks as well as NGOs who want to help startup businesses. And so that makes it super cool because the rates are very favorable and they're willing to invest in a local business. And a lot of our businesses are getting loans from credit unions, and that's a very new phenomenon. There's also crowdfunding, which a number of our businesses also use. It's a fast way to be able to get money. There are 3 different types. There's the reward crowdfunding, where you give somebody, if they invest, you can get my prototype if you give me a certain amount of money. There's debt crowdfunding, where you're actually borrowing, you crowdfund a particular amount and you pay it back at a price. And then there's equity crowdfunding, where people are actually investing into an endeavor. Most of these types of forms are much faster than when you're working with a financial institution. You can find international ones. What you want to make sure of all the hidden fees. There are different fees depending on the amount or if you actually don't make what you need. Like you're asking for 10 and you got 9. Sometimes they won't give you the money or they'll give it to you at a fee. You want to factor all of this in as you're developing and designing your plan. It's really, really important to look at all of the fine print. Kiva.org is an international crowdfunder that we've done a lot of work with. They're based out of San Francisco, and the cool factor for them is even if you don't make the goal that you're trying to aspire to, there's no fees. They also don't charge fees when you do the payback. It's almost like a loan structure. They have a 96% payback method, and it's a really great, Kiva.org is a great place. Shark Tank, venture capital money. It's super sexy. A lot of people love it. It's great. The only problem is it's really not for startups. It's for people that are in the adolescent phase of business growth and development. They're in an industry that folks want to invest in, and it's a growing industry versus one that's just kind of starting out. Some business owners don't like it because they give up control. Most VCs want at least 60% of your business for a short duration, or could feel long duration of time. And so a lot of times people aren't comfortable in doing that. But you want to, kind of like with the bank and the intended purpose, if you're looking for investment capital, you want to make sure that you're going with an organization that actually funds the activity that you're doing. It's really, really important. It's cool because you can kind of see the businesses that our friends on Shark Tank fund and the ones that they do and the ones that they don't. Most times, the reality is, because I'll go and I'll ask Dr. Google, did they get the funds? And most time, they don't, because people don't want to give up. They don't want to give up ultimate control of their business. So there's good news. There are resources, and you can do it. You can start your own business, and there are different ways that you can do it. What do you do next? You really want to know the rules. You want to understand what's out there, what could get you in trouble, what type of regulatory requirements are there to help or not help you. You want to understand the business structures that are available to you. You want to make sure that you understand the federal, the state, and the local requirements. And in Virginia, we actually give certifications to small businesses, small women, minority-owned businesses, so that they can compete for about $8 billion in goods and services that the state purchases and buys year to year. And in order for the small businesses to compete for the work, if they have this certification, the agencies are given incentives to work with the small businesses. This could be like in economic development. We went through a public process to hire a marketing firm to help us with our rebranding after Amazon. And so that RFP went out. It was a public. And we narrowed it down to 3, and they provided proposals, and they gave us our final offer. And some of them were SWAM certified, which is pretty cool. SBA also has certifications, women, location empowerment zones. There's small economic disadvantaged businesses that have opportunities. And there's also an 8A business development program for people that have been, or minorities, or have had a hard time breaking into the government sphere. And so that's our local Virginia. Those are state programs, opportunities to do business with Virginia. Now, I was saying that a lot of things are free, but there are things that you should pay for. And those are the 2 right there. The banker is free if you don't include the interest rate, but your lawyer or CPA. You don't want to have a friend of a friend who knows a friend who sometimes practices law. And you don't want to know or have a friend of a friend who does accounting on the side. A certified public accountant. You want to make sure that the people that you're hiring that are part of your team understand your sector, understand the tax laws, understand the things that could get you in trouble and to protect you. One of the main things to do when you're working with attorneys is remember that they're not your friend. They're nice people, but they charge you by the minute. And every conversation, they've got the timer on. So what you want to do is when you're working with them is you want to make life easier. If you create or have a template for a partnership form, let's say you want to go in partnership with someone and you download a form, it's easier for them to edit the form to protect you than it is for them to create a form. It's also good in the states to retain an attorney. So you give them money that goes into an escrow account. That money sits, and when you need the attorney, you can call on them and have them. Because you never know when something may happen where you're going to need legal advice. And so if you have them on speed dial, that's so much better not to have them on the dial at all, because they, like bankers, can sense desperation. You don't want that. So these are some of my successful tips to start up. The plan, 4-letter word, good. Understand the regulatory processes and how they impact your industry. Ask for help when you need it. Do not isolate yourself. Network with influencers. Ask for help. Have an advisory group or mentors. Brag. No one's going to brag for you. And there is such thing as the humble brag. The humble brag lets people know that you know your industry, you know what it is that you're doing, and you're confident in it. So when you write your business plan and it comes time to writing up what your expertise is, don't be humble. Tell what you know and be very forthright in what it is that you do. Use social media, although use it strategically. Keep great records and visit the people that you need to as much and as often as you need. And rinse and repeat. Keep doing all that all the time. Rinse and repeat. Okay. Now for Q&A. I know I went through a lot of information, but I want to make sure that if you have burning questions, that I answer them while you're here. Yes.
Thank you for a very interesting presentation. It's very interesting to understand more and better the local context.
Yes.
So maybe you can say what type of businesses do you support, and what is the most working business models that you have worked on, and what is the point why it was successful?
Oh, okay. Great question. We see trends within BizLaunch because we're meeting with people every day. And some of the trends that we're seeing, cybersecurity is really hot in the DC area because the federal government needs, if you're doing a contract now, there's a federal requirement that your systems are all secure. And so small businesses have to get the certification, and it's created a huge industry and opportunity. AI, artificial intelligence, is also very hot. There are lots of people that are creating and building and making things that make life easier. So we're seeing a ton of businesses that are doing different AI. I met a woman that was working for DARPA, and she had created for the military a helmet to protect the military when they went out. But she saw a dual purpose use for it for football, because concussions are a thing. And so she saw a multi-purpose use for this item that she had created and was now looking to work with others to be able to protect the head. So there's some really cool, interesting things that are going on in kind of like the tech space, and we see that all the time. But there are also dry cleaners. There's, people need to dry clean their clothes. That's still a thing. People need to get their hair done. So there are beauty salons, there are childcare facilities. I would say people that go to childcare, I give them everything because it's so highly regulated because there are little people involved. And it's complex and it's very cumbersome. So we'll work with people through every start of the process because the regulations are just so high. And also restaurants and retail. I think the online is the future. I think Amazon has done that and made things available to people on the platform. Where I see the success of people, the biggest thing that I see are characteristics of individuals, people that are very passionate. Like I'm talking to them and they can't stop talking about this idea and they're just so excited, and then I get excited and we're all excited together, and then they go away and then they come back and they go away, they go back. There is something to someone feeling passionate because they don't accept failure. And sometimes as an entrepreneur, you have to realize you need to fail in order to succeed. And you have to understand your weaknesses so that you can overcome them. It's not a time to think you have no weaknesses. It's the time to be self-actualized and to understand. And so I see a rigidity in people, a dogged determination to see something through. And I'll have people that decide, you know what, usually I meet with them and I send them like 2 pages worth of homework, right? And I don't hear from them because they're overwhelmed. They're like, what are you doing, But then they come back. And that's when I know they're serious because they're really thinking it through and they're writing things down and they want to know about the regulations. Those are the people that go on and succeed. Don't ever give up.
Do you remember movie The Founder? Ray joined to McDonald's company. Which way there are joined to new company, new project?
How do you found or?
I think it's typical situation. It's which there are typical answers.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the question is, but I think, if you really sit down and plan and you put together the pieces and you found your company, you will have success. Not to say that there isn't failure along the way, because there is. But if you're really actualized and you're realistic about the opportunities that are there, you'll do well and you'll go forth. You know the strengths and weaknesses of the community that you're in. You find out where you can plug in and how to have influencers and how to bring people together, because that's really what entrepreneurship is about.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have one more question. You told about small business. Which business you call small? Because you said about 6 million for go out in global market.
So we define, it's interesting because the federal definition of small business can include medium-sized businesses. It can be upwards of employing 250 people, which in my mind isn't really small. That's big, But they want to be able to hit both small and medium enterprises. The medium businesses, a lot of times in the U.S., they hit a glass ceiling, and they want to be able to break through the glass ceiling. And so you still need to have certifications and incentives and things in place to help them to grow. And so I think that's why their definition is larger. Our local definition, the average amount of employees is probably more like 2. It's the founder and someone else until they start to grow. But you'll find that most small enterprises probably employ 5 or less. And they can operate out of their home, low overhead. Yes.
I have this question. You said you are supported by government, yeah?
Yes.
But is your company profitable? How do you make it? Do you have fixed prices or not? And how much government involved? How you yourself control situation?
Good question. We are 100% our local municipality through the Arlington County government. Our budget is about $30,000 a year to do the activity. We have about, right now, there's 2.5 people. For many, many years, it was just me and a half person. But over time, we're very small. I think of BizLaunch as a startup for many, many years. Like I had to build it to where it is today. And after the Amazon announcement was made, it really put us on the map. So we're getting lots of calls. I'm getting calls from Dubai and all over the world about wanting to now locate in Arlington. And so we're going to need help. We're going to need to have more people on board because the interest is there.
Your advisory services are for free for people?
Free. No charge. Because our thought is, as you're building your business and you're starting, we don't want to charge you. Even taxes on the local level, if your business grosses under $100,000, it's a flat tax of 50.
Your company works for just local people, or just business, like people abroad can call you, for example, entrepreneurs interested in opening business in US, for example?
I have businesses that call me from all over. And if someone has found us, we don't, turn anyone away. We will help. I mean, we were working with a business that was located in El Salvador that was interested in coming. We work with Swiss businesses, German, all over, yeah.
What are the rules on hiring people? How do you know the person is good for your business or will be good for your business?
Very good question. We work with the county agency, our Arlington Employment Center, who will actually will look for employees on behalf of the company for free. So a great example was maybe now 5 years ago, Trader Joe's, which was like a local supermarket on the West Coast, was interested in coming to Arlington. And they needed to hire 96 people. Well, they're from the West Coast. They don't know anything about, East Coast and how to get employees and what to do. So they worked with our employment center, which we work hand in hand with most times. And the employment center did all the advertising, let people know which opportunities were available. And they hosted for free, for a for-profit company, a job fair. And on the particular day that they hosted the job fair, they hired 96 employees on the spot. And so it really was beneficial, and it helped because the employment center, along with the employer, could work together. We offer this service no matter the size of the business, from large to small. We will be working very closely with Amazon to help them hire 25,000 people. We've partnered up with Virginia Tech, which is a local university, to create an innovation hub so that key people that are in engineering and in STEM sciences are constantly being educated and then sent to Amazon to fulfill the jobs that they need in order to make the requirement that they have in working with Arlington County. And we'll do, if a business is relocating from the Ukraine, we will work hand in glove to make sure that you are welcomed and that you understand how the systems work and that you're going out to networking activities and that you're building your business. We do a lot with business retention and making sure that our businesses are happy because it costs so much money to shut the doors. We only want you to be successful. So we'll work, and we work in tandem with our Chamber of Commerce as well. We do ribbon cuttings. We roll out the red carpet to new businesses. We give every new business gets a key to Arlington County. It does not work, but it's the thought. It's the thought that counts, because businesses are an integral part of the community, are very important to the growth and prosperity of our community. Yeah, thank you.
What is your background from which you start your business and this activity?
Oh, wow. So that's interesting. So I was in the private sector. It's funny when you ask. I went to school for journalism. My goal was to be the next Oprah Winfrey. That's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be Oprah, to be completely honest. I love her, right? But there was a recession, and nobody was hiring. I'm like, what can I do? Where are my interests? Nobody's hiring. So what I ended up doing, my first job was doing community events for Prudential, which at the time was in health insurance. And I went around and I did PR and marketing to make sure that everyone had health care. And it was really tough. I learned a lot about how to do marketing and PR for a large firm. We created community programs to benefit. Not only did we want your business, but we wanted to be part of the community. It used to be part of Johns Hopkins. and it was bought out by Prudential. Got laid off from there, and then went on to work at a bank. I worked at, I worked for a, it had been recently privatized, a uranium enricher. So I got every glow joke, but it was all in sales and marketing and PR. And then after being laid off from there, I decided I'm going to go work for government where it's harder to get rid of me. And that's pretty much, I was a banker at one point, I thought, and I didn't really like banking because it's kind of hard. I don't like not saying yes to people, and I had to say a lot of no's. And it was hard. And so it's a tough. And the people that have most need, and you say no to them, and you know they need, But what it did, each one of these jobs was a platform to build who I am today, so that when I'm working with businesses, when I tell you what the banks are looking for, I know what the banks are looking for. With the PR and marketing, I know what works because we used to do that in the private sector. I have had from anywhere from a $50,000 budget upwards to like a $2 million budget. And figuring out the fiscal responsibility and what I use the money on for those programs, I bring that with me for the work that I do today. It's very beneficial. It's very helpful. I think it's a very unusual skill set, but it's really helped in the work. I've been doing this since '02, and I wouldn't give it up. I meet so many different exciting people, and just the kind of back and forth and helping someone to achieve a dream is priceless. It's priceless. It makes you feel good. You feel good when you help people. And it comes back. I'm a firm believer that it comes back when you do well with others. Any other questions? Is everybody ready to start? You're supposed to be enthusiastic. Yes! Yes! What time is it? It's 8 o'clock at night. So thank you all so much for coming out. Please do reach out if you need to. My email is here. Feel free if you have additional questions that you haven't thought of. I like to have an open door. And if you think of something later on, I want you to feel great about coming and asking the question. So thank you all. Good luck. All the best to you. All the best. Thank you.